Quick question. I'm Anita with the Genealogist Writing Room, and I'm curious to know how, with all of the information that you have found, specifically with African American research, what impact that has on the narrative of American history?
Well, that's a really good question. More and more, I'm doing a new film series on Reconstruction and Redemption, which is the period after Reconstruction ends when the South rises again. So we're going through every episode of African American Lives, Faces of America, and Finding Your Roots, to record all the stories from the Reconstruction period and the Redemption period of any of the guests. So I can put them in the book that I'm writing.
Very good.
So I could tell the narrative, but I can say, when Rutherford B. Hayes was elected president, Ted Danson's fifth great grandfather was also living in Washington. I'm making that up, but it's the kind of thing. And I always ask the guests, if you had known that your ancestor fought in the American Revolution, would that have changed the way you related to the study of the American Revolution? And answer is yes. The brother back there is the son of the American Revolution.
He happens to be my husband.
Oh, that's great. Plug for the home team. But of course that would. Or you could stand up and say to the teacher, if I had done that, my teacher would have sent me to the principal and said, "You're crazy," like. But we know there are 5,000 black men who fought for the Americans, and a lot of black men fought for the British, or that your ancestor was in the Civil War, or World War I, or whatever it is, the War of 1812. That makes a big difference, and it makes history interesting. I love history. My first degree's in history. I practice history without a license. So history's endlessly interesting to me. And when someone says it's boring, I think, yeah, but if you know your father, where were your parents? Your parents' parents in 1860, 1861 when the Civil War. It changes your whole relationship to historical events. What I do is all about telling stories.
Yep.
Genealogy is about telling stories. And a really good genealogist will learn how to transfer data into narrative. I've seen genealogists, I've had friends who would hire a genealogist, and then 6 months later, they just get a big notebook, a binder with a page of the federal census, and they look at it and go, "What the hell is this?" It's hard for people to figure out how to make a story out of that. They can tell, well, my family moved between 1940 and 1930, but so what? So you need to be sensitive as a genealogist. You need to take time and help people understand what the data convey, what stories are being told. And the reason that our series is so popular is that I think we excel at telling stories. We tell people these amazing things. We have historians filling in the context to what you see on a census or a birth record or a death record or a tax record or a will. And learning how to find black ancestors who were enslaved through the will of the white people who owned them, or the tax records. You had to list your property. If you were going to deed your slave to your daughter Mary, you had to say, "I leave my slave Mandy to my daughter Mary." So the key is getting back to 1870. That's like the barrier. You could get to 1870 and then look at 1860 for a white family by the same surname as your family. In my experience, most of the slaves kept their surname of that last master, but not all did. We know the Freemans, that's a made-up name. Some people just took George Washington, Thomas Jefferson Jones. They were free to name themselves whatever they wanted. But there's a lot of continuity. On the other hand, Joe and Sarah Bruce, that same set of fourth great grandparents owned by Abraham Van Meter. You would think their name would be Van Meter, right? But it wasn't. It was Bruce. Who were the Bruces? We have no idea. But obviously, some of their ancestors were owned by a Bruce family. But we still don't know where the Bruces came from. But guess what? We will.